Coming up today, from Hollywood sets to a hospital bed, a Kansas City native faced a diagnosis he never saw coming. How a life-saving kidney transplant gave actor Erron Jay a second chance, and why he is now on a mission to change the conversation about living donation. Good morning, I'm Jessica Lovell, and welcome to the Morning Medical Update. Well, you may recognize Erron Jay from Disney's Casey Undercover or Netflix Lucifer, but his Hollywood dreams were put on hold when he was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney failure. A transplant at the University of Kansas Health System saved his life, and now Erron is using his platform to urge more people, especially African American men, to consider living kidney donation. According to the National Kidney Foundation, more than 101,000 people are currently on the waiting list for a kidney, and only 17,000 people receive a kidney each year, despite the overwhelming need. And each day, 12,000 people die. 12 people die from a kidney disease waiting for a kidney. And we're going to talk much more about the Living Donation Program, but first, here is Erron's story. Recognize this guy?
Greetings. I am Olu. Oh, snap!
What about him?
I'm a mechanic. I work on cars, not Spider-Man.
Kansas City native turned Hollywood actor Erron Jay was living the LA dream when an unexpected plot twist cast Erron in a real-life role he never auditioned for.
I went through, the gamut of emotions.
It was April 2020, the beginning of the pandemic, when he received this news from doctors.
Hey, has anyone ever told you your kidneys don't work? And I was like, well, no, why would they tell me that? No. He's like, oh, well, your kidneys don't work.
Hi, Erron. How are you doing today?
Erron was eventually diagnosed with stage 4 renal disease. What Erron thought might be COVID turned out was full-on kidney failure, and he needed a new kidney fast.
Friends and family out of nowhere just started pouring love into me.
Time was not on Erron's side, but a few Hollywood friends were.
Started this campaign, and people like Cedric the Entertainer shared it, and Zendaya, and Lena Waithe, and Yvette Nicole Brown. All my beautiful friends that are celebrities started to share this.
An online search to find a new kidney led him to an old friend, Amy.
It was a roller coaster ride, because then you go through the thought process of, well, who's gonna sacrifice their organ for me?
Amy wasn't a perfect match, but she did match another patient at the Center for Transplantation at the University of Kansas Health System. They became part of what's called a kidney exchange.
I feel blessed, grateful.
Their reconnection ultimately led to 3 people getting a life-saving kidney.
They say that you don't know exactly how bad you feel until you get the new kidney, and I was like, I don't know what that means, but now I do probably feel the best that I felt in the last year and a half of my life.
And now Erron believes in real-life superheroes.
If you've ever wondered how close you could get to being a superhero, this is it. That's the closest you can get, is by being a live donor and donating an organ to save somebody else's life. That's it. That's how important it is. You're a legit superhero.
Erron posted this video updating his condition 1 month out from surgery.
I'm ready to get back to what I was doing, living life, and pursuing my dreams. And I know that I can't do that just yet because there is a healing process.
While he continues to heal, he's enjoying a new role.
I got a kind of a second gift of life, and I think the best way to say thank you for that is to do good by it.
He's sharing his story to help raise awareness about organ donation.
I want to help, I want to give back, and I want to help people find the same hope that I was able to find.
I tell you what, nothing's gonna ruin my mood today.
And soon, Erron will find himself back in the limelight on the big screen.
You know what, you should try aspirin.
Forever playing the part of kidney transplant recipient
Kidney time!
and grateful man.
This is my faith in humanity. Not that it was ever wavering, but it's definitely stronger now than it ever was.
I'm looking forward to, getting back to the EJ that you know and love.
Such a cool story, and we are so glad to have Erron with us here in studio. How are you doing?
Good. I feel great.
Good to have you with us. And you are here to discuss the importance of mentorship and spreading the word about kidney donations this morning. Joining us is someone who helped you mentor, helped you through you helped mentor Matt, correct? Mm-hmm. That's so exciting. And we're going to talk a little bit about your story. So welcome, and thank you for being here with us to share more of your story.
Thank you for having me here.
We're also joined by Dr. Sean Coomer. Always great to have you with us.
Glad to be here.
Transplant surgeon, and you're going to share a little bit more and give us a little bit more information about the shared transplant and the program that we're going to talk about this morning. And joining us virtually is Rod Springfield. Rod was Erron's mentor. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you so much for being here with us. Tell us a little bit, you had your surgery years ago. Explain why you are back here with us today.
So July 2021 was when I had my life-saving surgery. And since then, I've met people that I've loved for a long time, such as Matthew, Michael Davis, who I went to college with, that have all, been in the same predicament that I was in. And I had the opportunity to mentor them and to try to help them get that life-saving, kidney donation to save lives. And I figure if I can save at least 12 lives this year with this 12 and 12 campaign, I feel like I'm putting some good back into the world.
So Matt, Erron mentored you. Yes. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
The interesting thing is I was there as Erron was, getting to the end of his transplant portion of the journey, and suddenly, a few months later, they were telling me, hey, Matthew, your kidneys don't work anymore. We need to get you on dialysis immediately. And after I called my mom, Erron was the second call, because I knew there was anybody that could understand, he was going to be the one that could. And at every step along the way, when we would sit there and deal with me being sad about things, or needing to pray about something, or just generally just needing somebody to talk to know what to do, that became the thing. Dialysis is a rough thing for people, and there's plenty of those days where I would literally just call him like, I can't do it today, man, it's hurting, I need something, and he would give me some encouragement just to help me through those things, and it was a big part of our friendship as kids, kind of returning in almost the same fashion. It was looking up to somebody who could say, hey, I've been there, here's what you're going to deal with, and everything from finding things about the programs to understanding how to apply for different things. I always looked to Erron for that assistance, and he was always happy to give it to me.
I love that you said, I knew exactly who to call when something like this happened, and knowing that he was there to pick up the phone. What do you think was the biggest takeaway from Erron's friendship and mentorship?
Friendship over the years, it's always been that you can be encouraging to another black man and truly lift each other up, and we've always done that. But as part of this journey, the biggest thing was, hey, there is hope. You just got to keep going and not to give up about it. I think a lot of people get discouraged. You hear about how long it takes to get a transplant, or you hear about how dialysis will treat your body, and a lot of people get discouraged in that moment. And it's always good to have somebody who just says, hey, it looks like this, but on the other side, it's all worth it. And having seen what life has been for me since my transplant in 2024, I truly understand that fully.
How are you doing?
Amazing. It really is night and day. He told me it was going to be an entirely different thing once I was finished, and I was like, oh man, I don't know. And then I had the drains were taken out, and I was able to walk around. They're like, okay, now you can go out in public. Okay, now you can go back to doing things a little bit normal. And every step along the way, it's just felt more and more wonderful to be back to life in a whole new fashion. I see things with new eyes.
Dr. Coomer always says that. You never know how sick you are until you get your transplant, and then you can kind of start.
You feel better almost immediately.
You just start to feel better, and then you hear these stories of people getting back to their lives. It's pretty amazing.
It is.
So, Dr. Coomer, we mentioned African American men are more likely to need a kidney donation, but they're also less likely to be donors. What does that mean for patients ultimately?
Yeah, there's a lot of healthcare disparities. And you're talking about there's top two reasons really for kidney donation or kidney transplant is diabetes and hypertension, and they're unchecked, and it's pretty high in the African American population. And there's some healthcare disparities as well that kind of lead to that. So now you have a situation where people aren't seeking out care, and then people don't offer to donate either if they're not aware of what's going on with regards to the options for healthcare. So ethnicity does play a role. It's we have to improve our healthcare disparities and deal with that. But regardless, living donation is for everybody. African Americans can donate to Caucasians and vice versa. So those are important points to make, though.
Rod, you mentored Erron. Take us through your backstory a bit, would you?
Well, my journey starts with when I was 12 years old, I was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And from there, I did all my checkups. It pretty much lived a normal life. But in 2016, I was diagnosed with kidney failure. And February 1st, 2016, I started dialysis. And overwhelmed with all the different aspects of the disease and what could happen and what was the possibilities of the illness and what could possibly occur, I became educated. And I went and I reached out to doctors, I reached out to family, and one family member in particular, my cousin, who had went through the process, and he poured into me everything, and he told me what to expect. And the best advice I received was to get on the transplant list immediately. Don't waste any time. So that's what I did. I was living in New York City. I got on the list there, and I had a wonderful nursing staff who said, you should try Philadelphia. So my wife and I, we traveled to Philly, to Einstein Medical Center, and was treated so warmly by the staff, and was able to get on the list there. So by December 5th, 2016, I got the call. And I traveled to Philly, got my transplant, and amongst all the praying with my parents and with my wife, I had a discussion with God, and I said that, God, if you can get me through this, I'll share my story with anyone who needs to hear it. And that's been my mission ever since. Ever since I made it out of the hospital, was always to share my testimony, to share my story, and share any knowledge I have to help them and help the next person. And that's how eventually I met Erron and poured into him. And I'm so grateful that he's doing so well.
So in what ways were you able to pour into Erron? How did you support him? What kind of things were you telling him?
Well, I'll keep it clean. Jokingly, but I tell you what, you
do your best.
You have to be resilient. You have to have a resilient spirit. And the great thing about Erron was it was not only Erron, but it was his friends. And that's something I speak about when I go to medical conferences. I talk about the importance of the tribe, the village, to lift you up. And you have to have a hopeful, not a hopeless, but a hopeful mindset when taking on this illness. You're not dying from it. You're living with it, and you're waiting to receive that transplant. So it's always starts off with the mindset first. Of course, the medical aspect of going to your doctors, communicating, stating how you feel, asking questions, educating yourself. I feel like I have a medical degree. I'm sure I'm nowhere near the level of the doctor you have on the panel here, but I had to become really knowledgeable of self and how I was feeling, so I could help the doctors with my treatment. And from there, while doing that, still keeping a positive mindset and really seeing yourself, well, I'm going to get better. This is just one chapter. I'm going to make it to the end of this. I'm going to come out on top. That's easier said than done, but it's so necessary when you're going through this whole process. And that's what I tried my very best to pour in there.
How important were his words?
Super important. I remember when my best friend Kamal, we share a best friend, Kamal Bolden, and he connected me and Rod. And the very first conversation I had with Rod, trying to keep it clean, Rod really laid it out there with full transparency on what to expect and how I was going to be able to get through it. And everything that he told me, everything he did for me. I'd never met him in person. It just stuck with me. And it still sticks with me, and it's part of the reason why my advocacy is what it is today.
So what are you doing today? Tell us.
So good question. So full transparency, last September I made a Facebook post, and it was pretty much just to encourage my fellow artists, my fellow actors, since our industry is kind of on a downtick right now, just to keep going and keep your heads up. My grandmother used to say, chins up, wins up. A friend from undergrad in Missouri, at Missouri State University, saw the post. Hadn't talked to him in 25 years. And he was like, hey, well, what else are you doing to bring you, happiness right now and joy? And I was like, that's a great question. He was like, I remember when you first got your kidney, you were like speaking at places and you spoke at a nurses conference. I saw that video. And I was like, have I gotten away from that advocacy? And he was like, let me connect you with somebody. And he connected me with a publicist that was a family friend of his named Sarai. And Sarai was like, hey, I watched all of your stuff and I want to help you with your kidney advocacy, if that'll bring you joy in the meantime until the acting industry maybe picks back up. And I was like, that's a fantastic idea. And so, giving credit where credit is due, she came up with the 12 and 12 campaign. And 12 and 12 campaign started out as something to try to get African American men to be live donors and try to get one per month for the year of 2026. It did kind of morph into something else, as you were saying. Living donations for everyone. So we did open it up to a more broader aspect, because the more important part is saving people's lives. And I'm happy to say we're in March and we have 3 people signed up as people that want to be live donors. So we're accomplishing the goal so far.
On track.
Yeah, we're on track. We're on track. We'll see what happens in April. But yeah, so that's where we are with EJ's 12 and 12 campaign.
Because 12 and 12 people die waiting. Dr. Coomer, go over those statistics again.
Yeah, 12 people die waiting for a kidney every day. There are 90,000 people waiting for a kidney right now on the list. And you talk about liver, it's about 10,000. Heart, 4,000 or 5,000 people waiting. But there are people dying right now waiting for organs.
How long can people wait for a donation?
Yeah, it depends on the organ. When you're talking about kidneys here, some people are waiting 3 years, some people are waiting 10 years, 12 years. So it just depends on sort of how the matches kind of come along.
Explain paired donation. How have they been able to really help?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Paired donation has changed things. It's been transformative. When you bring somebody in that as a donor and says, I want to give a kidney to you, but you're not a match, that won't work. But it might work for somebody else that brought a donor themselves that they can swap. So donor A can give the recipient B, and donor B to the recipient A. It's just that's a simple paired donation, but you also can create chains, and those are powerful.
We've been able to create some big chains here, haven't we?
We have, yeah. We had, our biggest was 10 or 12, something like that.
It's incredible.
Yeah, all the way across the country. We were just part of it.
Matt, what do you think about this effort that's going on and that Erron's a part of and you're going to be a part of?
It's certainly it's probably one of the biggest ways to raise people's sightlines and awareness of it. You just don't realize how few people understand that they can give a kidney safely. And in my case, my donor actually straight up said the moment I told her, hey, I got to go on dialysis, I'm going to need a kidney. She's like, I'm giving you a kidney. That was literally, she's also a childhood friend. I've known her since I was 12. We went to middle school together all the way through high school. And so the same thing happened there. We didn't know she was going to be a match. She ended up being literally a great match. And so that's how we got together. So knowing that she could was something that she wouldn't have known had we not even talked about my situation. So every time you just mention kidney donation, that it is something that can be done. And the share program, the PAIR program, excuse me, is also one of those things that brings people in that just don't realize they can. I had cousins that did not know if they could give me a kidney because we didn't know if they were going to be matches. They said the same thing. When they saw Erron's campaign go up, they're like, oh, wait, so I can still do that for somebody else. I said, yes, it does not require you to be an exact match for the exact person. And mentoring my cousin, my cousin and one of my also friends, they're kind of in that same situation. We're trying to find a match for my cousin in the same fashion.
It's like having conversations and answering questions and getting those conversations going. Rod, same question for you. What do you think about all of this and what Erron is trying to accomplish?
Oh, I'm so proud of Erron, and it is right on line, right in alignment with what I told him. I said, when you get your kidney, and you will, your job now is to go out and to pour into someone else, and that's what he's doing. So I'm so happy to see that he's carrying on with this, and any small part or anything I can do to help him along with this, I'm always there for him for life. We are brothers through the whole journey of the kidney transplant, and I'm just excited that this is picking up as much of attention it is, and I just look for great things from it.
Dr. Cooper, just to explain just the differences between a living donor and a deceased donor, and some of those differences.
Yeah, so on average, living donation, those kidneys last 3 to 5 years longer than the average deceased donor. Deceased donation is obviously tried and true. It's where the most of the donation comes from. But talking about living donation, it's a highly selected population, the healthiest of the healthiest, because we don't want to harm them, right? That's really important. And on top of that, when you think about the process, right? You know that you get your scheduled date for a living donor. You know you're coming in at 6 in the morning and getting that done. You're off dialysis that day or preventing dialysis, whatever it might be. Deceased donation, you get that call. I think Rod mentioned it. You got that call probably sometime in the middle of the night and had to head to Philly. So it's a convenience factor as well.
When it comes to just the waiting list in general, just any trends that you're seeing that concern you the most? We've talked a little bit about it here this morning, but what are you seeing?
Yeah, it's the people that stay on the wait list the longest are the ones that we call sensitized. I mean, they might have had some kind of, we all build up some immunities to something, whatever it is, a bug, a virus, whatever it might be. That same thing happens, mothers can be sensitized from their babies and vice versa. So I think those are things that kind of come up. And those people wait a long time to get a kidney. And when you're on dialysis, that takes a really big toll on your body. Folks can get really accelerated cardiovascular disease, and that basically decreases their lifespan.
Well, be sure to ask your questions. Use the chat on YouTube or Facebook, or you could email the Medical News Network. That information is there on your screen. Erron, you've been through this process. How does someone get started, asking this big ask? You said you went out and went on social media. Kind of explain somebody where they would start to ask for this.
The first thing, and Rod told me, I told Matthew, is that the person who needs what they need, there's this level of why me. Once you get past that barrier of that why me, and you go out and ask the big ask, as we call it in the community, then it's pretty much smooth sailing from there. Because once you get it out one time, once you say it and put it out there, and everybody knows, then there's nothing to feel ashamed about. And the amount of love, I'm still overwhelmed by the amount of love and support that I received when I did finally go public. It was about 6 months after my diagnosis. It took about 6 months for me to get to that point. And I try to urge people now, don't wait that 6 months if they don't have to. And then the next step is find a home hospital. This is my home hospital. The nurses here were absolutely amazing. Shout out to nurse, I call her J-Dub, but nurse Jennifer and Samantha Brenner and Emma. I still remember all their names.
They're hard to forget.
They are hard to forget.
Yeah.
And even my aftercare, Dr. Seabrick, I talk about Dr. Seabrick to my nephrologist in Los Angeles, and he knows who she is. He's read her papers. Your guys' staff here is amazing. And so the next step is, find a great home base where you're going to receive the care that you really need, and the people are really going to pour into you while you're waiting for that life-saving transplant.
That's great advice. Now, what about you? You were able to find your donor from a childhood friend, but how do you start those conversations? Because those could be kind of tough to have when you're asking for that big ask, big give.
It was kind of more difficult than I expected. And Erron will tell you, I'm fairly open about some of my mental health struggles and being an advocate for mental health care for folks. And it was still hard to be the person that people normally go to for things, to admit hey, this is something out of my control that I need help with. But having Erron as a mentor really helped in that fashion. He's don't let your ego get in the way of this. You just tell the people what's going on. And he did do exactly what he said. He said, tell them earlier instead of waiting so longer. So it became one of those things of, all right, I know what I need. I have to just let people do, and it's hard to take that help sometimes. I think it's hard to say, I need this help in this particular way, and I know it has to come from outside of myself. And so having those conversations, telling the story to people that you didn't necessarily expect to see you in this weakened state, it can be difficult. But I had a great tribe around me that just seemed to increase over time. The love of people the entire way through the process, and even now, has been amazing.
Dr. Coomer, when that call comes or a living donor steps forward, what's it like, not just medically for your team, but just emotionally? I would imagine it's like, yes, someone has stepped forward. What's it like for you all when you guys get to go to work and get people feeling better?
It's pretty amazing, right? I mean, one of my mentors always used to say, it's the everyday miracle. And it's a miracle. It happens every day, but it's just amazing it actually works. Some of our predecessors that came up with transplantation years ago really were the giants that we stand on their shoulders. But and the feelings we get to have when we deal with folks like Matt, Rod, Erron, it's pretty amazing when you see them on their side, especially the day after. They say, "Oh, I feel like I have a ton of energy. I'm ready to go," or I feel warm now. I've been so cold for so long. I mean, you hear that all the time. So those are like palpable things you hear, and you're like, wow, we did something amazing yesterday. So yeah, it's just a fantastic feeling to help somebody.
Erron, a couple more questions. What advice do you have for someone who might be losing hope while they wait?
One of the biggest lessons that I learned in my journey, and Rod actually gave me this advice: faith over fear. I wear a necklace that says it. I have a bracelet that's engraved on the inside of it. Faith over fear. If you get scared on those days where it seems dark, you just got to remember, like, there's light at the end of the tunnel. There's a reason why you're asking for what you're asking for. To steal a quote from Team Be More, two young ladies out of Philadelphia who helped me in my journey, who I still have never met in person, but they do great advocacy for kidneys. But just know that you are going to be more. When you get what you need, you're going to have time to love more, have time to create more, to be more, and just keep your head up.
I want to get to some questions and comments from our viewers this morning. Kathy wants to know, at what point do you go on dialysis? Do you watch for numbers? Is it physical symptoms?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. You sort of get to a point where you're just not clearing toxins. We always think about AEIOU, and those are things like, electrolyte imbalances and urea overload and things of that nature. So when you get to a point where your kidneys can't control the daily toxins, if you will, that's when you do that. And sometimes it's confusion, sometimes an imbalance of electrolytes or other reasons. But it just sort of comes to a point where it's a decision between you and your nephrologist.
Jeremy wants to know, what's recovery time like and normal life look like for the donor after they donate a kidney?
Yeah, we have a pretty good regimen here. They donate. We do a lot of these on Tuesdays here, although we do them every day that we need to. But usually the donors are able to leave on post-op day number 2. So they come in Tuesday's the operation. We start to normalize them, get off of IV medications and so forth, advance their diet, get them up walking around a little bit. And usually on Thursday, post-op day number 2, they're able to go home. Now, they're not off the races and run a marathon right away. Of course, we want to make sure that they're taking it easy, they can walk, go up and down the stairs, and then after 6 weeks, they're usually totally released to do whatever they want. But usually in a couple weeks, they're able to drive and so forth. But the first couple of days after kidney donation, it's pretty rough, pretty painful, but it's a little bit easier to receive. But then you have a long-term maintenance of that and care of that organ by these two are shepherding organs themselves.
Jill says, thanks to Erron, Rod, and Matt for all sharing their brave story. Erron, thank you for helping others. A shout out to Dr. Coomer on Doctor's Day, she says, and asks, she wants to know, will Erron need another transplant one day? And if yes, would you do it again?
We would certainly do it again if needed, hopefully not. Like we said before, living donation tend to last a little bit longer than the average deceased donor, but usually think about 18 years, 20 years, maybe. But that being said, the person that got the first living donor from his own twin brother back in the 50s, He's passed away with his functioning graft about within the past 5 years. So it lasted a long time, 50, 60 years, kind of unbelievable. So you never know. Everybody's different.
All right, so we hope to just meet like this.
Yeah, exactly. That's what we pray for.
Well, I like that. I like that. Rod, we're so glad you were able to join us this morning. What do you want the big takeaway to be today?
Well, I think the main thing you want to take away from this, is something my father told me, is that no one makes it through this world alone. So you want to, of course, reach out to your doctors and be in communication with them, but you want to reach out to your community as well too, and lean on them. Let them love you, love on you, and once you make it through this this chapter, you pass it on. You pass that same positivity, that same encouragement to the next person, because they're going to need it as well.
Matt, what's the big takeaway today?
I think the big takeaway is the hope is truly as big as you think your current fear is. It's so much bigger. I went from being on dialysis every day and barely having energy to I'm really running for office right now. I'm literally ready for election in a week. And went back to practicing law just about 6 months after my transplant. So it is truly, the other side is truly able to be everything you thought it could be and so much more. So,
thank you
don't
so
give
much
up the hope.
for sharing your story, and best of luck with all of that.
Thanks. I'm looking forward. Like I say, next Tuesday night will be the biggest night of my life since the kidney transplant. So it's coming soon.
Well, we can't wait. That's so fantastic. Dr. Coomer, what's the big takeaway today?
I think you see these three gentlemen living their lives after somebody, a hero, donated an organ.
Yeah.
The biggest heroes in all of this, whether it's deceased donation, living donation, they're the heroes. They're the ones that are giving of themselves, or giving the gift of life. They're allowing somebody else to live, do their passions, be with their loved ones, whatever it might be. They're the true heroes, and it's really important that you sign your donor card at the DMV or go online, whatever it might be, but also consider living donation, because those are gifts that they're untouchable.
Absolutely. Erron, I'll let you have the final word. What's the big takeaway from today's chat?
The big takeaway today is that, loving on each other, be there for people. Sometimes we feel like humanity's at a loss, but it's really not. There's a reason why we're all surrounded by this table here today. It's because we care for one another. We care for other people outside of ourselves, outside of our families. And if you really want to be the hero that we get to watch on movies and on the TV screens, this is your way to do it. So put that cape on, talk to somebody, and consider giving that big ask and saving a life.
All right, great work. Give me my fist bump. All right, friend, thank you so much. Thanks to all of our guests today, and thanks to our viewers for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow and on Tuesday on All Things Brain Health. Young and covered in bruises because of a fall. That fall was something this 24-year-old would ever expect. She had a stroke. You're going to hear from this nurse and learn why fast action matters.
Subscribe to our morning medical update and open mics with Dr. Stites podcasts. Now everywhere podcasts are available.